I'm not really a fan of anime as a whole. That's not to say I don't watch some of it. Hell, some of my favorite shows of all time come from the genre. I love shows like Dragon Ball, the original Naruto series, Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop. Death Note is my favorite show of all time. But I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that anime as a whole tends to read the same way. Between the great shows and comics and movies that anime has to offer, you have to wade through a lot of mediocrity. And I mean a lot, but I won't let that get in the way of my review. Also, keep in mind that I use the word garbage very rarely. It's not something I tend to use even for a bit of hyperbole, so if I say something is flat out garbage from here on out, you'll know I mean it. Onigiri, from what I remember playing it back in 2015, is actually pretty fun. Let's start with the presentation. When it comes to presentation, I'd register Onigiri as somewhere between mediocre and garbage, leaning more towards the mediocre side. Its models are hideous, and I don't even want to get into its textures. Then there's the world. It's inspired by ancient Japan, so a lot of its architecture and environments look very traditional in the Japanese sense. A lot of old-looking villages and cherry blossom trees. It's a look that's used a lot in anime when the creators are feeling especially uninspired to create something new. Despite that though, it's a pretty hard look to get wrong. So you might be thinking that the environments at least look decent, right? No. All of the colors are muted, and look like they're trying to be as realistic as possible. It really contrasts with the heavily stylized and brightly colored characters. Maybe that was intentional. Maybe they made everything gray and dull so the characters would stand out more. But even if that is the case, you're still left with some ugly-ass trees and rocks to look at. Inside the dungeons is pretty much the same. None of the dungeons have their own unique look. Instead, you're taken through specific areas that you can't really explore, and they all have a similar look and feel to them. It's kind of a shame. Heavily stylized games can withstand the test of time because they aren't limited by the technology of that era that much. This is especially true nowadays, where we're capable of pushing that heavily stylized art style to its extremes. But take a look at a game like Jet Grind Radio. That game still holds up extremely well today, despite coming out almost 2 decades ago. But this game came out 5 years ago in 2014. One thing I will give Onigiri credit for in its presentation is that the clothes have some really fantastic designs, very lavish and beautiful. Some of the base outfits are just recolors, but they still look nice. They have a unique look to them, very bright and pretty. But because a lot of the outfits kind of look the same, it makes a lot of the character designs come off as samey. The weapon designs are pretty cool though. The weapons are actually pretty memorable as well. When I played through the game again, I didn't expect to remember any of the weapons, but I did, so that's a plus. But overall, the art style for the game is extremely basic. It's that kind of anime art style that's used when you want to appeal to as many people as you can, so you make it as basic and inoffensive as possible. They use this art style for anime like Future Diary and Sword Art Online. Make of that what you will. So yeah, it looks decent, but it's not really original or inspired. I will say that some of the monster designs are cute though. Others just look uninspired. Long story short, despite some interesting design choices in the clothes and weapons, the rest just feels bland, uninspired, or just looks downright ugly. Now we can finally move on to gameplay. Onigiri has a very simple combat system. It's an ARPG, so you can already kind of guess what it has to offer. There's the standard attack combo, you can dodge, block, and use magic abilities. That's it, standard stuff. What Onigiri does a little differently though is how it handles weapons. There are a few different types of weapons, each with their own style of play, and each weapon has its own combo of attacks. Granted, it's only one combo, but at least that's something. You can also equip magical abilities to each weapon that use SP, which is essentially your mana. It helps mix up combat quite a bit. Let's move on to the different weapon types. You have twin swords. They don't do much damage, but they have a lot of hits in their combo, so you can build up SP to launch your skills more often. Then there's axes and hammers. They have a very low number of hits in their combo, and they swing a lot slower. They also have a very low range. Even though they have some powerful skills and do a lot of damage with their combo, I don't like using them. You're rarely going to get off a full combo without taking a shit ton of damage. Then there's Odachi. Odachi are really big swords, the kind you find in anime all the time. Despite having a slow attack speed and a low combo, they have more range than axes and hammers, so you'll have an easier time landing a full combo and building SP. Normal swords are an in-between of the twin swords and Odachi. They have a fair amount of hits in their combo, have slightly more range than twin swords, and do an okay amount of damage. Nothing really special. They're kind of bland, so I don't use these either. Then you have bows and wands, but realistically speaking, there's not much difference between them in terms of playstyle. Bows tend to have higher amounts of hits in their combos. That's really the only difference. They're alright. Typically not what I go for in RPGs, but if that's your thing, go for it. There's also spears. Spears are like Odachi, but they have hella range. They also do a pretty damn decent amount of damage and have some pretty powerful skills. Spears are what I use for the most part. There's also magical skills that you can equip to any weapon you get. There's a whole bunch of different types of damage they can do as well. These are what make the combat tolerable. If there weren't any skills, this game would get really old really fast. This still doesn't stop Onigiri from feeling just a little bit grindy in terms of overall gameplay though. It doesn't offer any unique types of combat either, so that certainly doesn't help. So the combat is serviceable, but not stand out. But then there's the performance issues and bugs. And the translation still isn't fully implemented. There are 4 different ports of the game right now. PC, which you can get off the website or off Steam, the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch ports. The translation issues are in each one. They all come with their own set of bugs, and each one has performance issues, some worse than others. But this game loves to go crazy with its frame rate. I don't think I've ever seen it go above 30. This could be due to a number of different things, but from what I remember, the game always ran like shit. Becoming cross-platform probably didn't do much to help, so there's that. Now here's where I'd usually go into details about the story. However, considering this is an MMO and there was never enough about the story to intrigue me anyway, I'm not going to do that. I will tell you the base premise though. In ancient Japan, these monsters ran around fucking everything up in their sight, so the sun goddess said fuck that and sealed them away. Now one of the seals are broken, which released a lot of the monsters. And Oni, that's you, mysteriously woke up in Bland Village number 1 and are set out on a journey to stop the released boogeyman. I'm sure there's a lot more, but I couldn't care enough to find out if there is. A lot of the characters in the game are just anime archetypes, just bland. Not to mention the very uninspired designs of the NPCs. This is the kind of shit that turns a lot of people away from anime as a whole, myself included. With that being said, do I recommend Onigiri? No. It doesn't have much to offer, and even what it does have to offer is held back by a lot of technical issues. I honestly don't understand why this game got a port to so many different consoles, especially to the Switch. It feels and looks outdated. If the game gets some performance patches and maybe even some visual updates and you're super into anime, then maybe this game is for you. But even if that does happen, I don't think I'll revisit this game. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments and I'll answer them in the next video. And be sure to leave some recommendations on some games to play. Maybe one will become a review later on. Till then,